Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another video. The Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2 Tribes of Tatooine is here, and as always I'm going to break it all down with every Easter egg. I will be saving my full review and thoughts for the very end, but I will say that I absolutely adored this one. It's clear that the show is being helmed by people who understand Star Wars, and you'd expect nothing less from Robert Rodriguez, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, but this episode was directed by Steph Green, and for her Star Wars debut, I must say I was truly impressed. She really over-delivered. I have so much to say about this episode, especially in terms of its themes, which were heavily centered around belonging, rebirth, honor and respect, but I'm gonna save all of that and my rating for the very end. But with that said guys, and without any more jibber jabber, let's just dive right into the breakdown. Our episode starts with Fennec Shand bringing a Night Wind assassin back to Jabba's palace. After taking him hostage in the last episode, it's time for interrogation. He doesn't want to cooperate, and when asked who sent him, he doesn't say a word. But 8D8 says this is not surprising. The Night Wind assassins are renowned for this, and there's no way he's going to speak up. But when threatened with a rancor, he of course gives up his silence and says that he works for the mayor. Fennec dispatches him into the rancor cage and he falls into it much like Luke did in Return of the Jedi. But it seems, my dear friends, that we were deceived. There was no rancor in sight. Obviously, Patissa, the original Rancor in episode 6, died, but many of us thought that maybe Muchi from the Bad Batch, who was owned by Jabba and then Bib Fortuna, was going to appear. I mean, it could still happen. Maybe Boba will acquire one later on, but in this episode, no Rancor. So Boba and Fennec head out to see the mayor. They walk through the streets of Mos Espa, being stared at by everyone. The mayor, who is voiced by Robert Rodriguez, is much more calm than I expected. He tells Boba that it wasn't him who sent this assassin, but that he should go to Garsa Fwip, who has something to tell him. So we're taken back to the sanctuary, and once again we see Max Rebo and the Bith, and of course the astromech on the drum kit, who are jamming away and enjoying life. Now one Easter egg I noticed in the background, we see Tequil, also known as Snaggletooth. He was one of the Cantina aliens from A New Hope. When Boba speaks to Garsa Fwip, she informs him that twins have laid claim to their late cousin's bequest. And before you know it, we have the most suspenseful scene. Entrance drumming is heard outside. Lo and behold, the Hutt twins, who were Jabba's cousins, arrive on their litter. They travelled all the way from Hutt space on the planet of Nal Hutta to challenge Boba, as they believe his palace and rulership of Tatooine's underbelly is theirs. Now, I don't mean to gloat or anything like that, but if you guys remember, one of the earliest scoops I had for the show is that Hutts would appear. I'm very pleased that this came true, and I must say, they look way better than I expected. Now, while we don't know the names of these Hutts, I think we know the identity of the female one. I suspect she is Kraka the Hutt, the purple cousin of Jabba, who we see in the comic Star Wars Adventures Return to Vader's Castle issue 4. Her appearance and description match up. Next up we have a major cameo, who is someone many of us thought could very well appear in this show, and this is Black Qi'ra, an awesome Wookiee bounty hunter from the Vader and Dr. Aphra comic series. Having worked for Jabba the Hutt and Darth Vader, he more famously worked alongside archaeologist Dr. Aphra. Black Qi'ra, or Santi, appearing in this episode, tells me that Robert Rodriguez is willing to pull out all the big guns in terms of cameos. Boba even says to the Hutts, you can bring as many gladiators as you want, which is how they might introduce more badass bounty hunters to the series later on. Boba stands his ground and tells them that he owns the territory now, and if they want it, they're gonna have to kill him for it. So after deciding to settle this a different time, the male cousin leaves Boba with a warning: sleep lightly, bounty hunter. So that's pretty much all we get for the current timeline, but then we get 40 minutes of flashbacks. But truly, the second half of this episode is a tale of how Boba found belonging amongst the Sand People and was ritually baptized into their culture. There is so much to talk about in these sequences, but I'm going to keep it concise and only talk about the major points. We are shown a scene where Boba is gaffy stick training with the wife of the chieftain. He's bested a few times, but this scene depicts something really important. When Boba was young on Kamino, as well as on missions with his father, he would learn by watching Jango and mimicking him. Jango taught Boba most of what he knows about bounty hunting, and while Aurra Sing and other members of Crate's Claw had a lot to do with his development, it was fundamentally his dad Jango who made him feel like he belonged. They used to bond over training exercises, and this scene in the Book of Boba Fett is reminiscent of it. Boba's escape from the Sarlacc was a sort of new birth. He now had to learn all over again how to survive, but in a very different way, and go through the step-by-step training as he once did as a kid. I just love the imagery that this evokes. The Gaffi training sequences also show us how Boba was so skilled with the Gaffi stick by the time of The Mandalorian Season 2 when he wiped out those stormtroopers on Tython. So I think this was a nice backstory. Now during the training we get another little Easter egg. A Tusken spots and kills a wart. Now this creature is the same species as the one we see outside Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. Just a small detail, but it adds to the aesthetic. Now probably one of the most important aspects of this episode are the Pykes Syndicate, who pass by on a smuggler train and shoot members of the Tusken tribe, and this is when Boba has a sort of awakening, a new life purpose, to fix the injustice on Tatooine by protecting the Tusken tribe who have accommodated him. But he soon realizes how deep the problem of crime goes. It's not just the Pykes, but also the Nikto gang as well. Now as we saw in the trailers, this scene leads us to Tosche Station, where we see Cammy Marstrap and Lei's Lone Zoner, who were Luke Skywalker's friends in the deleted scenes of A New Hope. These two are roughed up when Lei's Lone Zoner speaks out about having his drink stolen, but luckily Boba enters to take care of business. We see Boba go full on rogue in full Billy Badass mode, twatting members of the gang left, right and centre. He absolutely kicks their ass, and you love to see it. He then takes their speeders and teaches the Tuskens how to ride them, because his plan is to stop that train. Being tribal and not using much technology, it was a struggle for most of the Tuskens. But let's be honest, it was hilarious seeing Boba be essentially a motorbike instructor for 5 minutes straight. But they finally got the hang of it, and when they were ready, they took on the speeding train and stopped it, rounding up the Pykes and sending them to Anchorhead. And I know I've abbreviated this scene quite a bit. The action sequences were awesome, so pressing on, the Pike Syndicate appearing reinforces my theory that Qi'ra of Crimson Dawn is coming. Being part of the Shadow Collective, who the Hutt family are now also a part of, this episode hinted that Qi'ra and Crimson Dawn, and maybe even Black Sun, are probably going to make appearances in this show. Go and check out my full Qi'ra theory, which I broke down the other day. To thank him for stopping the Pykes, the chief of the Tusken tribe gives Boba Fett a gift, which is a lizard, one which crawls up into your brain and sends you into a hallucinogenic state and guides you to a sacred tree. The tough branches of this tree are carved by the Tuskens into a gaffi stick, and this is how members of the Tusken tribe acquire theirs. Now this shows us how deep the religion of the Tusken tribe really is, and furthers the idea that they're not just simpletons. The Mandalorian's first 2 seasons, and now the Book of Boba Fett, are depicting them in a much more complex way than the original trilogy. They're capable of complex emotions, feelings, behaviors, and now spirituality. This tree is representative of the Tree of Life, and you just know that this was Jon Favreau's idea. And I must say, it contributes to this idea of a new birth. This sequence and what follows is a rite of passage into the tribe. Now during that hallucinogenic state, we get more flashbacks to Kamino. We see a young Boba staring out of a window onto Poker City because he cannot stand to watch his dad leave. And at this point, my dear friends, I think it's just a matter of time until we see Jango Fett, and who knows, maybe even Mace Windu himself. So at this stage, Boba is now a full Tusken. He is given his black robes that we see him in The Mandalorian Season 2, and he goes through the ritualistic ceremony, which no doubt had Maori Haka influence thanks to Temuera Morrison. And he is now fully integrated in the tribe, and it makes you gain an appreciation for why it was important for Boba, at least for a little while before the Book of Boba Fett, to combine his Tusken attire with that of his armor. I think by the end of the season, the Tuskens are going to return the favor in the current timeline and be part of some sort of final battle. So that, my friends, is the breakdown, and now for my review. What's amazing about this episode is that they're keeping with the slow burn feel, which works surprisingly well. The episode really did justice to the character of Boba Fett, beyond just being a cool bounty hunter from the original trilogy. They're incorporating all 3 eras of Boba, prequel Boba, original trilogy Boba, and now post-Return of the Jedi Boba, and at the heart of all of that, it was about belonging, honor, and respect, and Steph Green stayed true to what Jon Favreau made clear was important to the show. And I'm talking about how Boba's past as a clone still does matter to him. The episode was everything I wanted and more, and I also got major Last Samurai vibes from it too. Apart from the flashbacks, it's clear that the one main purpose of this episode was to introduce us to the main criminal organizations who are functioning on Tatooine. Groups that Boba, now as the new daimyo, is going to have to deal with, and I think Crimson Dawn is coming, or at least the remnants of it. So I'm going to rate this episode a solid 9 out of 10. Just like I gave chapter 1, it was well balanced and gave us a side to Boba that respects his past and also where he's going. How those experiences with the Tuskens after the Sarlacc Pit shaped him in a new way. So those are my thoughts, but I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you enjoy this episode? Why so or why not? And if you enjoyed this review and breakdown, give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are. And why not consider becoming a patron? The link is down there and you get more videos that are not found here on YouTube. As you guys know, I will be speaking much more about this episode in the days to come. But until then, my dear friends, may the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg, and I'll see you in the next one.